Anyway, I'm jealous of your influence on your father. I'm having no luck with convincing my mother. Breaks my heart. Yeah, look, I think Dad saw me turn around my life and get and improve quite and become stronger, lose weight, look better, become stronger. I mean, I had a big pot belly out here. I was really bad health wise. So I had a big friggin' pot belly that popped out like a pregnant woman, and I was in a really bad state by that stage. And he saw massive change in my body comp, and that convinced him that basically, Harry must be doing something right. Things seem to be improving on all that. And I started pointed out obvious things to him. I was blunt, but my father's blunt as well. He'll say things obviously. If you see something stupid, he'll just basically point it out. And I'm pretty blunt as well, like my father. And so if I see something, I'll tell people, you're just doing this wrong or that or whatever. Now, some people get offended from that. I don't give a shit. Never have. That's my style. But I'll point the obvious if it's ridiculous. I'm not going to pussyfoot around. Pussyfooting around doesn't help anyone. Sometimes you have to be honest with people and tell them in a blunt way whether they are fucking it up. And I pretty much said to Dad, look at yourself, mate. I said, look at you, your muscles are wasting away. You're in a bed. I said, Dad, you can't keep on eating all this plant matter. I said, why are you doing this? And he said, oh, these people at the Greek community, some of the old ladies were saying, we shouldn't eat so much meat and stuff like that. It's not good for, we age faster and all this sort of the bullshit, that they were hearing. They'd gone to some stupid sort of, they had government sends these stupid sort of nutritionists in with translators and basically tells these old people what they should be eating. Friggin', going in there killing people. That's what it is. The nutritional killing fields. And pretty much, Dad had sort of listened to that sort of stuff. He wasn't any, he thought, I just would reduce slightly my meat. He was still eating plants that were basically still grown in his own veggie garden, a lot of them. And, we're not talking about, he was eating a much healthier in terms of some of the stuff that was eating compared to my other sad dieters. But he wasn't getting enough protein anymore, and he was starting to become sarcopenic. And I pointed this out to him, and initially I gave him, like taurine and stuff like that to basically help him along. And then eventually I was able to convince him to eat a bit more meat. He started eating more meat. And then he started seeing he was getting stronger. And I said, look at you, you're getting stronger and all that. And he goes, yeah, my muscles are coming back. I said, Dad, you're made of meat. What do you expect? I just kept it simple, you don't complicate it for old people. I wasn't going to explain biochemistry to him because he wouldn't understand. He'd tell me to take a hike. But I just told him in simple terms, look, you're made of meat. You need to eat meat. These sort of things, just kept it simple. And he basically really got himself sorted really well. So sometimes you just have to have an honest conversation with your mum and point out the obvious deficiencies she has. You need to be blunt. I know sometimes out of respect for our parents or we feel uncomfortable, especially with our mothers and stuff like that. I've been there. I know what my mother was like. Didn't really like criticism, even though I gave her quite a bit sometimes. She would stop talking to me for a couple of days when I did. So now, I mean, she's passed away, but when she was alive. So I know exactly. Dads will listen more than mums. Mums are far more stubborn, I found, from my own personal experience. My mum was quite stubborn and wouldn't listen either. So she probably would have been alive if she listened. But yeah. But back then I was pretty much an ignoramus as well when it came to dietary things, so I probably couldn't help her anyway. But by my father's stage, yeah, and he's more receptive. But I also was blunt, quite blunt and clear about what he was doing to himself. So I didn't pussyfoot around. There's no value. And I think even older people, they respect more when you come out and bluntly point out the obvious. You don't need to be critical. That doesn't work. That's when they put a defensive face on. But you need to be blunt about the division. Look at yourself. Look at your state. You've got this, this, and this problem. What you're doing isn't working. You need to basically consider something else. Look what I'm doing and look how I'm getting better. Just blunt. Make it obvious and blunt, and leave it at that. And eventually, at some point, it'll click, and she'll be inquisitive. Let me try something. Well, what can I try? And then you can say, well, try this. And it's small steps sometimes, and eventually they shift. And they start seeing changes in composition and benefits. They start getting stronger. They feel better. They go, shit, he's onto something. And then they want more of it because they're old, they're frail, they are worried about mortality, and then they see that they're feeling much better and stronger and all that. They want more, I can tell you. You know, most people, even at the end of life, want more life and better quality life. So once they see those little improvements, and that's where I was a bit cunning. I threw the leucine and I threw the, obviously, there's always the low blood pressure issue with taurine. You have to be very careful. Dad didn't take any medications, so I didn't have to worry. And the taurine and all that, because of the mild myostatin inhibition and the amino transporting effect, which brings in more aminos with the leucine, adding more muscle protein synthesis. And Bob's your uncle, getting more muscular. And Dad goes, if I add more, I'll even become stronger. Yes, you will, Dad. Pat him on the back. Yes, you will, Dad. If you add more meat, you will become stronger. And basically, over time, shifted. It's not, so yeah, that's how I would approach your mother. But I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I did with my dad and suggestions of how to approach it. But don't be abusive. That doesn't work. Don't be pushy. That doesn't work. Don't be critical. That doesn't work. Most people don't like to be lectured at. But be blunt about the obvious deficiencies. Mum, look at yourself. You can't even get out of a seat properly or this. You need to address this before you become too frail and too damaged. Point out the obvious. Force her to basically confront the real issues, not to hide from them. Most people like to hide from things. When you point out the blunt obvious, like I said to Dad, look at your muscles. I just touched them and I said, look, you've lost massive amount of muscle mass. I said, that's not good, Dad. You won't have enough strength to get out of a chair soon, and you'll be struggling to be able to lift things. So I was blunt about it, completely blunt, not critical, but blunt about his state of affairs, the way his body was. So that's a very different approach. And, it usually basically that the person starts thinking, going, oh shit, I'm not in, people are observing that I'm not in a good state. What can I do? That's when they start asking for help.